Welcome to Binge Breakthrough, the podcast designed to help you finally break through the barriers that keep you stuck, feeling out of control around food. I'm Master Certified Coach Jane Pilger, and I want you to know that no matter how long you've been struggling or what you've tried, food freedom is possible, and I'm here to show you how. After years of therapy, eating disorders treatment, restrictive diets, and reading all the books, I was still stuck in the on-again, off-again cycle of restricting and binging until I was able to see it all from a new perspective that changed everything. Each week, I will share the strategies, tools, and mindset that allowed me to overcome my decades-long battle with binge eating. Your journey to body trust starts now. Let's dive in. Hello, trusted listener. Welcome to Binge Breakthrough. I consider you a trusted listener because I trust that you are listening to this podcast for a reason. I trust that you are going to hear something insightful and impactful on your journey with food. So today we're diving deep into a topic that is close to my heart, and that is food freedom. So if you are listening to this episode as it comes out live, we are approaching Independence Day here in the United States. And as we approach this day, many of us are reflecting on the concept of freedom. So I thought it would be a great time to talk about the concept of food freedom. So what about freedom in our relationship with food? As a binge eating coach, I've seen how this idea of food freedom can be both a beacon of hope, something that we are striving and hoping to achieve, and also a real source of confusion. So today, we're going to unpack what food freedom really means and how we can work towards it in our own lives. So we're going to cover 4 key areas today. We're going to talk about some common misconceptions about food freedom. Then we're going to redefine food freedom. And I'm going to give you some real life examples and insights of my own. And then I'm going to give you some concrete steps that you can take towards your own version of food freedom. So let's start with the misconceptions. So some common misconceptions about food freedom. When I ask people what food freedom means to them, I often hear something like this: being able to eat whatever I want, whenever I want, however much I want, without any negative consequences. That would be food freedom. Does that sound familiar to you? Maybe you've thought something similar. I know I have. But here's the thing, that's not really freedom. That's a fantasy. In real life, our choices always have consequences. Some of them are positive, some of them are negative. But true freedom isn't about escaping consequences. It's about making informed choices. I've seen a lot of people in their quest for food freedom swing to the opposite extreme of dieting. They rebel against diet culture by eating anything and everything, anytime they think about it, in the name of no restrictions. But so often they end up feeling awful, both physically and emotionally. And even in this case, they're still very focused on food. It's just in a different way. I personally used to think that food freedom would mean saying yes anytime I thought about food. And if I was able to do that, then someday I would just magically stop thinking about food all of the time and wanting it so often. But of course, that's not what happened. This isn't freedom. It's still being controlled by food, just from a different angle. All right, so now we've kind of covered those misconceptions about food freedom. Now let's look at redefining food freedom. So if this isn't food freedom, if food freedom isn't being able to eat whatever I want, whenever I want, however much I want with no negative consequences, then what is? So I want to use an analogy that might help. I want to talk about financial freedom. Sometimes when we bring in a topic that doesn't have quite the emotional charge that, say, food freedom or eating might have for you, sometimes we can see things in a different light. So let's talk about financial freedom. What does financial freedom mean to you? For many people, it's about being debt-free and having the ability to choose how to spend your money. It's about having enough to cover necessities with plenty left over for what you value most. But here's a crucial point. If someone has financial freedom, does that mean that they spend all of their money just because they can? Of course not. People with financial freedom are often very intentional about their spending. They make choices for what they want to buy and how they want to spend their money based on their values and the life they want to live. I found a quote that really resonates with this idea, and I wanted to share it with you. This quote says, "One critical aspect of freedom, financial or otherwise, is the ability to make the choices that are right for you and the life you want to have." I love this. I'm going to repeat it. One critical aspect of freedom is the ability to make the choices that are right for you and the life you want to have. This is exactly how I view food freedom. It's about choice and intention. It's about having the ability to choose foods that are right for you and the life you want to have. So for me, food freedom means having the ability to make choices around food rather than feeling compelled to eat without choice. There have been so many times in my past, it did not feel like a choice to eat to choose what I was eating. I felt like I was being compelled to eat it, or I didn't even make the choice in the moment. I just would look back and think, oh my gosh, how did that even just happen? So to me, it's the ability to make those choices rather than feeling compelled. It's understanding why you're making those choices. It's feeling safe and trusting yourself around all foods. It's not being controlled by compulsive eating or food fears. And it's making choices that align with your values and the life you want to live. Now, it's very important to note, food freedom doesn't mean you'll never have challenges with food. You might still crave certain foods when you're tired, when you're stressed, when you're overwhelmed. But when you have food freedom, you have the tools to navigate those situations without losing your sense of choice and control. So I want to share with you a few examples, real life examples and insights. So here's an example that illustrates this journey. So one of my clients in my Cultivate group coaching program, Lauren, you actually are going to be hearing a little bit more from Lauren on the podcast next week, but she recently had a breakthrough. So she was feeling conflicted between what felt like food freedom and her desire to eat foods that supported her energy and her blood sugar management as someone with type 1 diabetes. So initially, what she discovered was that her definition of food freedom was very simply being able to eat anything I want. But as we dug deeper and we got a little bit more curious about her personal definition, here's what she shared. She said, "I noticed much of this choice comes with an undertone of spite, an attempt to prove to those who imposed restrictions on me in the past that I have reclaimed my choice. This doesn't feel good and is, in fact, the opposite of food freedom. So what she came to realize was, yes, I can eat anything I want. And so a lot of times she just was because she could, because in the past she didn't have that choice. But then she really got to see, oh, wait a second, that is not the only reason I want to make these choices just because I can. I want to bring in these other factors as I make decisions. So we got into this discussion and I really encouraged her to redefine food freedom for herself, to expand her definition beyond being able to eat anything I want. Because that is an important part of the definition. I want you to hear that. Being able to eat anything you want is an important part of the definition of food freedom, but it doesn't stop there. We don't also add on without any consequences. We want to take in other things into an account. So for Lauren, she came to this beautiful definition for her. Food freedom is liking my reasons for my food choices. So then she went on and she made lists of reasons that she liked and that she didn't like for choosing foods. So reasons that she liked included, it tastes good. I want it. It feels good in my body. It won't spike my blood sugar. It's satisfying. Reasons that she didn't like included eating out of spite, eating out of fear or scarcity, eating out of obligation and guilt. So this shift in perspective was huge for her. It moved her from rebellion to intention. It moved her from reaction to conscious choice. This is food freedom. Making our choices for food around intention, around conscious choice, understanding our reasons, knowing our reasons, liking our reasons. Another client inside Cultivate, she defined food freedom as feeling safe to enjoy all food and eating with intention more often than not. So for her, it was about removing the fear and the compulsion around food while still making choices that made her feel good. So you can see with these examples that food freedom can look different for everyone. The key is finding a definition that feels authentic and empowering to you. For me, food freedom is all about choice. I am free to eat anything I want, anytime I want, but I make the choice. I understand my reasons. It's from this active choice of what I want for my life. And often that includes pleasure. It includes enjoying foods. It includes having amazing experiences. And it includes eating things that will give me the energy that I want for my day-to-day activities, for my athletic pursuits, whatever it is. But it really is this sense of I have a choice. So now let's talk about your own steps, the steps you can take towards your own food freedom. How can you start working towards your food freedom? Here's some practical steps for you. Step number 1, define what food freedom means to you. Take some time to journal about this. Food freedom is going to look different for everyone, but journal about it. What would it look and feel like in your daily life? And really think through when we're thinking about choices. Remember, every choice has a consequence, whether we're talking about the choices of what we eat, the choice of what time you go to bed, the choice of what you spend your money on. It all matters. So here's practical step number 2. Identify your current reasons for your food choices. Make 2 lists. Make reasons that you like and reasons that you don't like. And just be honest with yourself. This is not about judgment, but it's about awareness. Why am I making these choices? Do I like these reasons? Do I not like these reasons? Now, number 3, practice curiosity, not judgment, about your food choices for 1 week. So each time you eat, ask yourself, why am I choosing this? And how do I feel about this reason? This brings in awareness. It brings in curiosity. Step number 4, explore your relationship with safety and trust around food. Do you feel safe around all foods? Do you trust yourself to make choices that line up with the life that you want for yourself? And if not, can you identify why? This is where so much of the work happens, safety and trust. So many of us know what we want to eat. We know what feels good in our body. But for a variety of reasons, we don't feel safe or we don't trust ourselves. This is the work. All right, step 5, start small. Choose 1 meal a day to practice intentional, values-aligned eating and gradually expand this practice. You don't have to bring in all of this awareness, all of this intention, all of these questions to every single time that you eat. And step number 6 is seek support. This work is not easy to do on your own. This journey with food and to finding food freedom can be challenging. So having support can make a huge difference. Whether that's from a coach, whether you seek the support of a therapist, whether you seek a supportive community, it can make a big difference. I encourage you to come and join the supportive community on Substack that we have created together. Come join the Peaceful Eater and get the support that you need. Now remember, if you don't feel like you have a choice around food right now, there's likely a very good reason for that. Often it comes down to issues of safety and trust. Perhaps you don't feel safe around certain foods, or you don't feel safe in your body, or maybe you don't feel safe to be with uncomfortable emotions. When we don't feel safe, we disconnect. So creating that safety and that trust, it is deep work, but it's possible to create. It's the work that I do with my clients every day, and I've seen remarkable transformations. All right, let's recap this. Food freedom is not about eating everything, anything you want, anytime you want, any amount you want without consequences. It's about making choices that you feel good about, understanding your reasons, and feeling safe around all foods. It's about aligning your eating with your values and the life you want to live. Now, as someone who has walked this path and still continues to walk this path, I can tell you, while I don't feel free all of the time, I do feel free most of the time. And when I don't, when I do disconnect, I can usually reconnect pretty easily now. This is a place I never thought would be possible for me, and I want you to know it's possible for you too. If you want to dive deeper into your own food freedom journey, I invite you to schedule a food freedom session with me. We'll define what food freedom means to you. I'll help you understand what's holding you back, and we will create a clear next step for you. You can find the link in the show notes. All right, that's what I have for you this week. Thank you for listening. Next week, we're going to hear more from Lauren about her journey from weekend binges to food freedom. All right, I'll see you next week. Thank you for listening to Binge Breakthrough. You can find the show notes and any resources mentioned at bingebreakthrough.com. If you like this episode, subscribe to have future episodes delivered to you each Wednesday. And remember, your 5-star rating and review will help others discover these life-changing concepts. See you next week.